Hello and welcome to Business Roundup. Thank you for making time to be with us once again. I'm your host, Moureen Babirye, and as always, we promise to keep you engaged with the top business stories of the week. Here's what we have coming up. Uganda Airlines adds London to its growing list of international destinations. Business confidence dips slightly in Uganda during the first quarter of 2025. East Africa's insurance industry players commit to stronger regional collaboration. And in our Sounds of Business, we take you to Gulu City, where modern roads are driving urban transformation. Let's get started. In our first report, Uganda Airlines launched its first direct flight to London Gatwick, a move government officials say will spur trade, tourism and investment between the two countries. London becomes the airline's 17th destination and at 6,464 kilometers, the longest sector in its network. Business Roundup's aviation correspondent Samuel Senono was on board the inaugural flight.
8 hours and 30 minutes after departure from Entebbe, Uganda Airlines Airbus A330-800neo touched down at London Gatwick Airport, marking a historic milestone for the national carrier. Flight UR110 hadn't just crossed continents, it had crossed a new frontier in Uganda's aviation story. As the aircraft taxied to its stand at Gatwick South Terminal, passengers were met with unmistakably Ugandan warmth, ululations, songs, and heartfelt embraces.
I know where it is, and I'm managing it, but I need to get everyone, only that I'm going to have a problem to get everyone.
Where are they?
All on time, everything very good.
Guys, we might need to wait here a bit.
As ground handlers prepared the aircraft for its turnaround, boarding began for the return leg to Entebbe. Excitement was mirrored among outbound passengers, many of whom expressed pride in flying the national carrier direct.
Very excited. This is making history. The last flight that came to UK was the one I used to come to UK myself back in 1988. And I'm taking the first flight back to Uganda.
Really looking forward to going on Uganda Airlines' first flight from London to Entebbe. This is my wife, Monique.
Yes.
Okay, and and we're going back home.
Uganda's High Commissioner to the UK, Minisha Madvani, was present to see them off.
And thank you to all the team from Uganda Airlines that are here to greet us and welcome us and to arrange everything, and to see all the fellow Ugandans going home for the first time on the first flight directly to Uganda.
Later that evening at the airport hotel, Gatwick Airport's Chief Commercial Officer officially welcomed the Ugandan delegation, which included Works and Transport Minister General Katumba Wamala, the PSST Ramadan Gobi, senior government officials and other airline executives.
I think what this will undoubtedly provide as a direct service is a valued boost to trade and investment. So the UK and Uganda market was worth over £600 million last year alone. 500 million of that was outbound from the UK, but I think undoubtedly with more direct connectivity, you will see this market no doubt prosper further.
The inaugural service dovetailed into the UK-Uganda Business Forum held the following day in London. Government leaders, private sector investors and trade partners gathered to explore the commercial potential of the new air bridge.
The arrival of Uganda Airlines to the UK takes business and cultural ties between our two nations to a new high. It's a big step in breaking down the walls of misinformation and disinformation that have been keeping away some of the UK investors and tourists from Uganda.
Now in our 5th year, we recognize our role as going far beyond transportation. Uganda Airlines is a platform for transformation, for empowering Ugandan businesses to scale, connect globally, and compete at international standards.
And the infrastructure we are doing is not necessarily just for us to connect within the country. And because we are at the center of the region, our efforts is to connect to our neighbors and the markets there. So we have the investments which we did, the first priority was to connect the borders. Uganda connected to Kenya, we have connected to South Sudan, we have connected to Congo, we connected to Rwanda.
Uganda's position in the East Africa community and the Africa Continental Free Trade Area gives investors access to a market of over 1.4 billion people. So we're not just talking about Uganda, we're talking about Uganda as a gateway, and that's the message we'll be getting across on Wednesday and Thursday, because the potential for growth for Uganda is clear, 6% annual growth. And British businesses are part of that, actually, with UK Export Finance supporting British businesses to secure more than 560 million of export wins in the last 5 years.
While launching a long-haul route during early recovery years may appear ambitious, Uganda Airlines sees the London-Entebbe service as a strategically vital play, according to the airline CEO Jennifer Wamturaki.
How airlines operate, you don't shrink, you expand. The moment you start to shrink, then you will not have the numbers, you will not have the revenues, then you'll be running to government or to whoever our shareholders to find the money to sustain us. An airline grows out of a problem. So that is why you'll see that our neighbors will expand, even when they are making losses. So the trick is in how do you expand and how do you expand and what are those things that you keep in check? Things like fuel, things like catering, things like maintenance will always be there. But how do you manage them? And that's where the losses come from. We will make, people think we don't pay taxes. We are also taxpayers. So it's very important for us that when we are launching these routes, we launch them strategically. We don't just launch everywhere. We launch strategically, knowing that these routes at one point will make money. The losses come from somewhere, from what we call our direct costs and indirect costs. So all costs must be managed. So as a team internally, as we launch routes, we look at the cost of operation and we must see how to manage it and make sure we don't bust our losses.
For the tourism stakeholders, they say this route changes the game. With non-stop lift into Entebbe, Uganda is now positioned to compete with regional peers in long-haul leisure and safari travel market.
Because without airlift, there is no tourism, pure and simple. We've got to be able to enable the visitors to get to the tourism destinations. Now, as mentioned, the UK is Europe's top source market for Uganda, but previously, without the international airlift, it's been lagging behind, but there's a lot of opportunity now because it's going to be a shorter journey. It's going to be easier for people to get to the wonders of Uganda.
But it's not just about passenger revenue. The A330's lower deck offers substantial belly cargo capacity, a new artery for Uganda's fresh produce exporters. Looking ahead, Uganda Airlines is setting its sights on sustainable aviation. The airline has begun blending 2% sustainable aviation fuel on its London route, and it's exploring partnerships to scale biofuel production using Uganda's organic waste.
We have a waste management challenge, but in there's an opportunity. By 2050, the aviation world will be going to sustainable aviation fuel. So there's an opportunity in investing in that biofuels out of the waste management. So investors could look into setting up plants, and also food stock processing that could start a whole process of sustainable aviation fuel in the country. Now, being the home airline, and as we grow bigger, we are expected to have a blend of at least 2% in our fuel by 2025. No, 2025. So our first flight out of Gatwick had a 2% blend of SAF. And that a time is coming when we will have to do that even out of Entebbe.
According to officials at Uganda Airlines, this expansion is part of a broader strategy. They are building a hub and spoke model with Entebbe at the center. The goal is to consolidate African regional traffic and connect it to long-haul destinations, with London now being its flagship European spoke. Samuel Senono, UBC Business.
Financial institutions are prepared to support Uganda's economy through providing quick and affordable capital for the forthcoming National Development Plan 4. In this regard, Standard Chartered Bank hosted an investment dialogue with private and public sector stakeholders to share insights. Take a look.
The dialogue sought to foster collaborative discussions among key stakeholders to explore and unlock the potential of cross-border trade as a catalyst for Uganda's tenfold growth strategy.
So the first initiatives as Trademark Africa was to bring these entities together so that they can be able to work together. So what happened was to upgrade 7 cross-border one-stop border posts. And these upgrades really were to have administrative blocks so that everybody can be able to sit together and work together to improve the process flows.
Uganda's economy grew by 6.2% in fiscal year 2024-2025. The size of the economy reached 202.7 trillion shillings, amounting to $53.6 billion US, and targets to reach $500 billion US by 2040, headlining with key specific sectors termed as ATMs.
Government is undertaking some investments in the region in order to harness regional trade. We are doing joint investments in Congo, that you know very well. We are undertaking some joint investments with South Sudan, and we are going to be undertaking also, recently you've read in the newspapers, to Central African Republic. And the government has been steadfast in trying to stabilize these markets. When we go to Congo with our military and to South Sudan, it's not because we are really interested in fighting there, but actually trying to stabilize those markets.
Private sector companies intending to secure financing have been tasked to think bigger and win-win situations so that they profit together with financial institutions in spite of interest rates remaining relatively high compared to global markets.
What we have done now is to escalate this discussion and proposition to the region. Now, PSFU, with its sister agencies in Kenya, that's the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, Tanzania Private Sector Foundation, the Rwanda Private Sector Alliance, etc. We've come up with a common position that will then state what the private sector in Uganda and the region can take up as consensus. We then escalate that to the East African Legislative Assembly, the East African Community Secretariat, but more importantly, we are now saying before the Heads of State Summit, the private sector takes a collective position that will then state how things are done.
That let's not be super dependent on only oil, because Uganda has so much more opportunity. If you think about the 10x economy, it actually looks at the multiple resources, multiple opportunities, multiple pillars that we have of growth and transformation. So what do I make out of it? I think clearly we're going to be winners in the region. When election comes, we just have to be careful that we don't overspend money.
Uganda is poised to transform growth in Africa through cross-border trade, but government and private sector must innovatively align their objectives strategically utilizing public-private partnerships to achieve success.
In more news, the East African Insurance Supervisors Conference concluded in Kampala with a resounding call for deeper collaboration across the region to address industry-wide challenges and spur sustainable growth. One of the key outcomes was the adoption of a joint constitution to guide cross-border operations and harmonize regulatory frameworks. We have the details.
We have also used the same opportunity to approve our constitution. Our constitution is guiding us on how we operate and how we will survive. All this is intended to ensure that EASA is a going concern.
Increase penetration, and one of our resolutions is to find out solutions to increase penetration, solutions to increase awareness, solutions to increase capacity to underwrite some risks. And that's what we are doing in our technical levels with our people in East African countries. So there is actually, yes, there is efforts from all regulators to make sure our challenges, our common challenges, has solutions, and it is a local solution.
What is the level of penetration in our markets? You will remember that currently most African countries are struggling with penetration of below 1%. Some have 2%. A few are at 3% in terms of penetration. The world average penetration rate is about 6-7%, whereas in Africa we are still lagging behind. And that is what we want to do to encourage our people to get that protection from insurance. Maybe the other thing that I can also let you know is that it is estimated that the world premiums will be $7.2 trillion. Africa writes $63.5 billion annually, or in most times. So we are still far off.
We come together as a body of insurance regulators. We are trying to say, if I'm Rwandan and I go to Uganda, will I receive the same quality of service like I would have received in Rwanda? If I go to Burundi, can I open up a business and be sure that I'll have cover for my business? If I'm traveling through one country to another, maybe through the ports and the ports, will I be able to receive the same quality of service? And so when we come together, we are trying to make sure that our people will get this service irrespective of where they are.
Uganda has registered a slight decline in the business confidence in the first quarter of the 2025. The Uganda Business Climate Index survey by the Economic Policy Research Center indicates that issues of multiple taxation and tax avoidance have crippled small and medium-sized enterprises.
The Economic Policy Research Center has released the latest findings of the Uganda Business Climate Index for the January to March quarter of 2025. The data indicates a decline in the business confidence across the country's private sector.
From 91 index points, that is in the previous quarter, in this case the previous quarter would be October to December 2024, and decline to 88. That is for the current quarter of January to March.
The drop of 2.3 index points is attributed to the competition between the formal and non-formal businesses, coupled with multiple taxation.
That contribute to the formulation of policies aimed at fostering a more competitive, productive, and an enabling environment for all.
Economic policy analysts proposed flexible fiscal business orders to improve the business climate in the economy.
There should be trade order in light of regulating the informal sector environment where some of these unregistered businesses operate. For example, we should enforce trade order, zoning and urban planning regulations, especially in the newly created cities, municipalities and local governments.
The business climate environment hindered agricultural production due to drought that hit the country during the review period.
And one of that is that labor moved because of drought, and they were not getting much business activity. People purchasing inputs, people purchasing, hiring tractors. That reduced because of reduced activity caused by that drought, that heat wave that we experienced in the first quarter of 2025.
However, the research revealed that parish development model has improved household incomes, especially those businesses that lacked capital push of less than 800,000 shillings.
The highest amount of money someone was looking from a credit facility, either from, it could be a commercial bank or a village SACCO or what, they were looking for money between 200,000 and 1 million, the maximum.
The study analyzed 3 basic sectors, including manufacturing, agriculture and services, and highlighted the need to improve on electricity reliability for steady production. Abdul Nasir Lubwama, UBC Business.
In another development, Uganda has flagged off its first large-scale shipment of roasted and ready-to-drink coffee products to the Republic of Serbia. This milestone marks a significant step in Uganda's efforts to add value to its coffee industry and access premium international markets. Mark Wadulo has the details.
This 15-ton coffee consignment was flagged off by the Minister of Science and Technology, Dr. Monica Mosenero, and included remarks from key partners such as PASAID, Ministry of Trade and Industries, Yugovic SMC Limited, and local coffee roasting collaborator Great Lakes Coffee Company Limited.
This particular shipment for me illustrates a number of things. First, it's a shift in industrial systems. Uganda is moving away from exporting raw commodities to producing finished, value-added products.
This marks Uganda's first large-scale shipment of roasted and ready-to-drink coffee products, which are projected to earn Uganda greater export value compared to when it's in green bean form.
An unroasted green bean kilogram of coffee in Uganda would fetch about $5.30. But now this pure processed roasted in Uganda coffee is going to fetch us double that amount at about $12.30.
The container is now almost ready to set off. There's another few procedures that needs to happen. Certificates of origin, certificates of quality need to be issued. Proof what was loaded needs to be issued, and then all the other clearances for the authorities for the container to start its journey from here through to Kenya to the port starts. And what's quite symbolic about this as well is that from this point onwards, the ownership of the coffee, it gets passed on to the buyer, because the buyer is the one who coordinated with the shipping line to make sure that there was a container right here. And so now they take responsibility to make sure it reaches Mombasa within the next 10 days, it gets loaded on the container, and it gets finally delivered to bars.
The Presidential Advisory Committee on Exports and Industrial Development and its partners are implementing a 6-pillar strategy in the coffee export value chain to address bottlenecks that often limit Uganda's coffee subsector on competing with international standards.
You distribute, you assemble machines, you use the trade agreements to negotiate entry, you ensure that you have warehousing in that market where you go. Now you've seen the videos of their warehouses the other side. And then I think the 6th one is technology, tracking. But he's doing 5 of those, we're doing 1. So what's remaining here is to replicate, is to give him the necessary support to open the free zones, so that the free zones bodies where you have a warehouse. I need those machines that are in customs to come there. 6 months we've been waiting.
This shipment is expected to reach Serbia in less than 3 weeks by both road and ship freighting, And the goal is to sustain and grow this export market opportunity on a monthly routine with plans of penetrating other markets in the long run with Uganda's roasted and ready-to-drink coffee. Wadulo Arnold Mark, UBC News, in Bugolobi, Kampala.
This is to make sure that all the farmers can prove that they haven't cut down any trees in their fields since 2020. So we are talking only about a period of 5 years. And Uganda is actually not really a difficult case here. There has not been much deforestation in Uganda during this period. So now it's mainly about certifying each of these farms, which is of course easier said than done, because there are many farmers here, small-scale farmers, who would now need to enter into a system of sort of GPS locators to geographically locate their farm on a certain map, which will then be compared to a map of where deforestation has taken place. And this, I think, is the only way to ascertain that deforestation has not been involved in any of the exported products that go from Uganda to Europe.
In our Sounds of Business, Gulu City is fast emerging as a model of urban transformation in Uganda, boasting some of the best road infrastructure in the country. This week, envoys from the European Union got a first-hand experience of the city's impressive roads riding through on hybrid bicycles. Take a look.
On the side, slow, slow down. Cut the speed. Always cut the speed. Yeah, man. I'm coming, you carry me.
Now, before you forward or respond to any information on social media, please take a moment to fact-check. Here's why it matters. It helps prevent misinformation, protects your credibility, supports informed decision-making, and reduces the potential harm. Let's all commit to verifying before sharing, because honestly, the truth matters. Thank you for staying with us to the very end of the show. We love you so much. From me and the team, good night.